What's up guys, and welcome back to another Pokemon Sun and Moon coverage video, and I have some more Pokemon Mega Evolution speculation for you today. Of course it's Pokemon. So, you know, as usual, not much needs to be said. Let's just jump straight into the speculation. So, the first possible Mega we have today is Mega Farfetch'd. Now, of course, this isn't necessarily one you might think might happen, because, of course, Farfetch'd most likely deserves a normal evolution more than a Mega Evolution, but a Mega Evolution may be very interesting to see for it, because, you know, if we're going to get, would you prefer nothing or a Mega Evolution? I'd probably choose a Mega Evolution. So, Farfetch'd, obviously a normal flying type from Generation 1. What typing could it be when it evolves, or Mega Evolves I should say? Normal flying, you know, it could carry that through straight up. Of course, that's maybe a bit of a boring typing. So, what other typing? I mean, the only other typing really that fits for a Mega Farfetch'd would be Fighting Flying. This is a bit close to Hawlucha, obviously, from Generation 6, so that's the only reason I'd say it would keep a normal flying type, but, you know, I can't really see it losing a type or gaining another type apart from the fighting type, because what's it going to get? Grass maybe, because it's got a leak, but that's a really slim sort of connection, so I very much doubt that would happen. But Mega Farfetch'd, so what stat changes would it have? Well, I would say it becoming a very sort of like Mega Beedrill, very attacking, very offensive, fairly fast, and having maybe a drop in defense as well. Just sort of that trade-off, because for Mega Farfetch'd to actually be really quite viable in terms of power, you would have to have a very large attack stat, and of course to have that much boost, you would have to have a drop in some cases, and physical defense would be the most likely drop. Of course it could lose some special attack as well, but you know, then that makes it a bit too easy. So having a drop in physical defense would be a good trade-off, because then you've got, you know, loads of power, but you are really quite sort of frail in terms of physical defense, and you know, it would make sense for Mega Farfetch'd too. I mean, this design, he's got 2 free leaks. You know, he's going to be using the leaks a lot, and he's not going to be that bored about, you know, defending himself, so that defense drop makes a lot of sense there. Ability wise, for a Mega Farfetch'd, it could keep over one of its basic abilities, which is Keen Eye, which obviously doesn't, you know, makes you invulnerable to accuracy drops, which is a decent ability, you know, why not have it? However, there are better ones you could use for Mega Farfetch'd. I believe Farfetch'd's hidden ability that of course it could carry across is Defiance, so if ever one of Mega Farfetch'd's stats were to be lowered, it would then gain a 2 times boost, or a +2 boost in physical attack, which would obviously sort of aid even more on the, you know, the sort of full out physical attacking Pokemon. Or of course we could give an ability that would just raise its base attack, which would be huge power, obviously doubling its base attack, and that might mean you don't have to have quite as high an attack boost, so maybe it wouldn't have to lose any defense stats. You know, wouldn't have to actually have any stats lowered if you had huge power, because you get a 2 times boost anyway. So I don't know what Farfetch'd's attack is to begin with. You know, but say it was raised to 90, it gets huge power as a boost to 180, so that's a very high attack stat anyway, so you wouldn't really need that much of an attack boost. But that's Mega Farfetch'd. If you guys have any other ideas for its abilities, its typing, or its stat changes, let me know down below. As is the same for any of these Pokemon, guys, I'm always interested to see and hear what you think of them. But move on to the next Pokemon now, and this is going to be Mega Dodrio. So very similar to the Mega Dugtrio we saw the other week. I don't see this happening quite well. I mean, it's more likely than a Dugtrio, because obviously Dugtrio is literally just made up of 3 Digletts, whereas at least Dodrio is made up of, well, I mean, it's not really made up of anything. It's 3 heads on 1 body, and it's not like they got 2 Doduos and stuck them together. There's a slight difference in this case. So Mega Dodrio is possible, but it's not amazingly likely. Again, it's a normal flying type, very similar to Mega Farfetch'd in general. In terms of what a Mega Dodrio's typing would be, I can't really see any type change at all there. You know, what would you change it to? You can't really take away the flying type. I mean, it's possible, but obviously it's a bird, so I mean, it doesn't have huge wings or anything, but it would still make sense to have the flying type there, because most of its sort of moves are based off of that. Like Mirror Move is one of its, I don't want to say signature moves, but it's one of the moves it's known for. So it would be a bit weird to lose the flying type, and of course the normal typing makes a lot of sense because of just its general design. In terms of, you know, the only way you'd be able to change the typing is if there was a drastic design change that, you know, altered the normal typing to be sort of dark or fairy, but neither of those are really that likely. In terms of stat changes, this was a hard one for me to figure out, because obviously you wanted to get, I mean, you can't really see it as being like a tanky Pokemon, of course, a Mega Dodrio, because it's got 3 heads, you know, it's got a few fair, you know, weak spots. So I went for an attack and defense boost here. It's a bit weird, but obviously, you know, say each of its heads gets boosted up in power, so it can attack, you know, with more damage. Defense-wise, maybe, I mean, with this design here, you can see its tail feathers have gone a bit larger, so maybe, you know, defense-wise that helps there. Or maybe its body fluffs up even more, so it can be some nice defense from its feathers. But I really couldn't think of any other. Speed, yeah, okay, maybe it could have a speed boost, but then again, the Pokédex entry is talking about Dodrio's heads actually sort of arguing with each other, so speed wouldn't really be something you think too much about for Dodrio, since obviously if their heads are arguing, you're not going to move that fast. However, of course, that's just Pokédex, so it could get a speed boost, but I just went for defense boost here. If you guys have any other ideas or work a bit better, let me know down below. And in terms of ability, it could carry across one of its basic abilities, which is Early Bird, which obviously means it's not asleep for as long, which is obviously, you know, a good ability, why not have it? But really, for Mega Dodrio, if it's going to happen, they may as well introduce a new ability for it, very similar to Mega Kangaskhan's Parental Bond, very similar to the one suggested for Dugtrio. Works a bit better here, because they have 3 heads, but, you know, have an ability that, you know, you attack 3 times, and each attack is, say, you know, 40% of the moves, what the move would have normally done. So overall, we've got 120% power, spread over 3 attacks, and obviously, you know, as we know with Mega Kangaskhan, it can be used quite well. I mean, Dodrio probably doesn't get power at a punch, but if it did, that would be very good for it. But something like that, a multi-hit ability, might be very interesting to see, and might be where, you know, Dodrio gets, or Mega Dodrio gets all its power from. But that's the second Pokemon there. Let's move on to the next one, which is going to be Mega Dewgong. So, Mega Dewgong. Dewgong is a Pokemon I've always been interested in sort of figuring out. So, it's a Water-Ice type. Not used that much in competitive, or at all in competitive. I can't remember the last time I saw it. A Mega Dewgong would be really interesting to see, actually. In terms of what typing it would be, well, Water-Ice is its basic typing, so, you know, that's one of the only typings I could see it carrying across. However, in terms of how the design changes, I mean, this particular Mega Dewgong design, that could certainly be like a Water Fairy typing or an Ice Fairy typing, more Water Fairy probably. However, it could have changes like that, but I feel like you have to keep both the Water and the Ice typing for it, you know, to make Dewgong Dewgong, because I mean, Seal is pure Water, and then Dewgong gains the Ice typing. So if you were to remove the Ice typing for a Mega Dewgong, you'd be back to sort of, you know, what you would like for Seal, and if you remove the Water typing, you've lost what you started with almost. So I feel like it has to stay Water Ice, although there are other possibilities out there. Stat change wise, I would say it being a bulky special tank, so having a really high special defense, but also having a decent speed boost as well, so it can be nice and fast and also take a lot of special hits. Special attack will get a reasonable boost as well if it happens, of course, or maybe even physical attack, probably more special though, but wouldn't be amazingly huge. So it would have sort of mediocre attack and special attack, mediocre defense as well, but a really high special defense and a fairly high speed as well. So it would give it a really sort of weird sort of, you know, I keep saying sort of, a really weird dynamic, in which case, you know, it's tanky, it can take a lot of hits, but it can also really move back quite fast. Ability wise, it could carry across normal abilities, of course, one of which is Hydration, which removes status changes in the rain, or has a chance to at least. Another of its basic abilities is Ice Body, which obviously restores health points in hail, so both of those, you know, could be used for weather-based teams. Or its last normal ability is Thick Fat, which reduces the power of water and ice type moves, which is pretty decent as well, you know, especially if it has a nice special defense boost, because water and ice are generally special moves, so you really would be able to take those attacks pretty darn well. All 3 of those are its, you know, its normal abilities and its hidden ability. I couldn't really think of anything. I mean, all 3 of these are possible, I think, for Mega Dewgong, so I didn't really feel the need to list anything else. Of course, you know, it could go for something else. It could go for Regenerator, possibly, so it would gain some health points on switching out, which would help with its tanky thing, but it wouldn't really fit with this, you know, theme. You could go for stuff like Drizzle, something along those lines. But yeah, that's Mega Dewgong there. Then if we move along to the next Pokemon, which is going to be Mega Muck. Yes, Mega Muck. So, Muck, obviously, pure poison type. In terms of what typing a Mega Muck could be, I would have to see it just staying pure poison. I mean, again, what are you going to add to it? You can't really, unless the design changes dramatically, like ending up having like molten magma, you know, slime, be a poison fire type, or if you end up changing it so it was like, you know, you'd have to have a drastic change in the design to be able to sort of feed in any sort of extra typing. I mean, this design here, it looks like, you know, the inside, it looks like it's uranium, it's glowing, it's radioactive. However, there's not really anything that links, there's no type that links to that. The closest thing is poison, because it's poisonous sort of thing. So pure poison would be what I think, but of course there could be other ideas if you let me know down below. Then, stat change wise, I would say it being this really bulky Pokemon. Why? I mean, because it's never been known. I mean, Mega Muck, you know, you can use it in some cases as an offensive Pokemon, but it's not that known as an offensive Pokemon. But having a defense and a special defense boost would make it really quite tanky, but also obviously this would make sense to have a speed drop. It's happened before with Pokemon, I can't really remember off the top of my head, you know, where you've had this all this bulk put on, but of course you have to lose speed just to balance it out. So having defense and special defense just so it can take all the attacks, because I mean, if you look at it at the end, Muck, or you know, Mega Muck, is just a ball of goo, so it can really take attacks pretty well, I suppose. In terms of abilities, it could carry across one of its basic abilities, which is Stench. Stench is a bit of a rare ability, you don't see it too often, but it is one of Muck's normal abilities. In terms of what it does, I mean, it would be useful for a Mega Evolution, but you know, it could also be not as much useful. Basically what it does is it may cause the target to flinch upon when it's, you know, when the target's hit by a damaging move from Muck. So if Muck uses, I mean, it's any move, so it doesn't have to be physical move, so any move has the sort of possibility of flinching the opponent. Of course, it would, yeah, it's helpful, but of course, as you said, Muck isn't, or Mega Muck would not necessarily be a very offensive Pokemon. It'd be more of a tanky Pokemon, but it could be a nice complement to it in case of when you do attack. If you know you're bulky, so if you spam attacks every time, say they flinch a third of the time, sort of thing. I mean, it's not that often, that common, but say they flinch every now and again, that's one less attack you actually have to take, and of course they're still, you know, you're still not taking actually that much damage from the move. Of course, other options are available, one being Gooey, which is from the Goomy line. It doesn't really fit with the sort of Gooey and then Slime quite as much, but it could, I suppose. But this lowers the opponent's speed by one stage every time they physically, you know, hit you with a physical move, which could be useful in some cases, you know, of course. And would sort of, I would say, counteract, but again, it would complement your speed drop. So yes, you're really quite slow, but if any, you know, physical attackers actually hit you, then of course over time they're going to get slower as well. So it's sort of, it's a passable effect, I guess. The last one I thought of, which is a bit of a weird one, is Arena Trap. Now I think it would be really interesting to have a Mega Evolution with Arena Trap or something, you know, Shadow Tag, I think is the other one, that doesn't actually let you leave battle. So you know, they can send them out, Mega Evolve, and you're stuck in battle unless of course they switched out at the start of that turn. And I think that would just be a really interesting sort of adaptation. It would be interesting to see how people used it. Of course, it might be too powerful, especially, it depends on the Pokemon it's on, of course, but I think Muck would be a good candidate, because, I mean, yeah, okay, you trap the opponent in with you, but what is Muck going to do? It's had defense boosts, it's not necessarily going to have a very high attack or special attack stat. What is it going to do? Okay, it's trapped you, but yeah. So it might be useful for some cases where, you know, the enemy is a tanky Fable, you can switch in, they're arena trapped, you can just toxic them, and then boom, you know, you can just wait them out until they die because they can't switch out. I feel like that would be a really interesting ability to have on a Mega Evolution in general, and I feel like Muck would make a lot of sense thematically, because of course it could spread its goo out all over the field, and it, you know, the Pokemon might not be able to actually leave, sort of thing. I don't know if Arena Trap would work too much in terms of the name, but you could definitely add a new ability for it. But that's Mega Muck. Moving on to the last Mega Evolution for today, if we look at Mega Cloyster. Yes, so Cloyster having a Mega Evolution would be interesting. Cloyster is a pretty powerful Pokemon to begin with. You know, certain sets with Shell Smash and such can make it quite powerful, but a Mega Cloyster obviously would have to be used in a slightly different way. So Cloyster is a Water-Ice type. In terms of what typing a Mega Cloyster could be, obviously it could carry on being Water-Ice, or another option is if the shell sort of gets even harder and hardens up even more, it could possibly become an Ice-Steel type. Yes, this would give you a 4 times weakness to fighting, which isn't the best, and also a 4 times weakness to fire too. Wouldn't necessarily be the best type, so it could also be possibly a Water Steel. I'll throw that idea out there. If, you know, if the case of, I mean, I don't know why it's got an Ice type anyway, but you know, if the shell, I guess, is were to harden up even more, then obviously it might be able to gain the steel type in that sense. But in terms of what defense or what stat changes you should have, I think, you know, if you're going to make a Mega Cloyster, you can't use it in the same way as a normal Cloyster, and that is you shell smash and then you go for, you know, skill link attacks with like Icicle Spear and obviously your high attack stat. I can't see the same sort of thing working for Mega Cloyster, so I'd have to say it being a defensive Pokemon, so with a defense and a special defense rise and a speed drop, very similar to Muck again, in a fairly similar way. You know, actually having the shell being really sort of nice and bulky for you, so you can take loads of hits, but having obviously a low speed to lug this shell around, and not having an amazing attack stat or a special attack stat, you know, because obviously that would make it too overpowered. You could obviously complement this with an ability of some sort. First up is Shell Armor, which is, you know, sort of the last of the trio with, what's the other two? Weak Armor and, is it Rock Armor? I don't know. Anyway, Shell Armor protects the Pokemon from critical hits, so that would definitely help you out in some senses, because obviously, if you possibly had a, I don't know if Cloyster gets any abilities too, I think it probably learns Withdraw, which isn't the best move, but of course if at some point you decide you wanted to raise your defenses and think, oh yeah, I'm going to become this unkillable tank, if someone were to come on with critical hits, yeah, okay, then they're just going to wipe through that anyway. I mean, you might still have pretty good defenses to begin with, but you know, Shell Armor protects your crits and allows you, I guess, to not get cheated out of something if you have a good strategy. So one option. Then the other one is Skill Link, which is again one of Cloyster's normal abilities, and this makes any multi-hit moves hit 5 times. So Icicle Spear will always hit 5 times. Cloyster also gets Rock Blast, I think, which hits 5 times, and one more, I think. I can't remember off the top of my head though. But you know, those types of moves, yes, it works for a normal Cloyster. It could also work for Mega Cloyster too. It would just do a lot less damage because you can't really use Shell Smash quite as easily. But it could definitely carry it across because it's a decent ability to begin with. And the last one I thought was Overcoat. Yeah, it's not an amazingly powerful ability, but it would be pretty good. And what Overcoat does is it protects you from weather effects, so you're not going to lose any health points from hail or sandstorm. So it wouldn't be the best one, but it would be another option, which would make a lot of sense, because obviously you have this shell, it's protecting you nice and, you know, it's not actually, you know, what's hail going to do to you? Well, it's just going to hit the shell, and the shell's going to protect you fully. So I feel like that would make a lot of sense there. But that's Mega Cloyster, guys. Again, if you have any ideas or thoughts about that, let me know down below in the comment section. And that is the last Pokemon for today. So if you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to hit the like button. And as I said, let me know what you think of these designs and these ideas down below. But for now, I'll be seeing you next time. Thank you for watching. Goodbye, my friends.